Hello, friends. I am so glad that we get to worship together today. Things sure have been a lot different lately, and I am so thankful that even though things around may look and feel different, our God is the same. He never changes. He is still the great and powerful God who saves that we read about in the Bible. He is in charge of everything, and He is faithful. That is something to celebrate. Today, we're going to stop everything we normally do to remember who God is and celebrate Him. That reminds me of something the people of Israel from the big God story would do to remember and celebrate God. They would stop everything they normally did, just like we're doing right now, and they would have a festival to give honor and glory to God. One of the festivals God's people would celebrate was called the Feast of Trumpets. Can you say Feast of Trumpets? Great job! You see, when it was time to celebrate this feast, the people gathered together to celebrate the many ways that God is faithful. Faithful means that God will never leave us. God knows everything about us and loves us. God is real, and He will never break His promises. Can you say God keeps His promises? Great job! He does, and that is something to celebrate. Boys and girls, today we are going to spend some time remembering some of the stories we've read the past few weeks in the Big God story. So now it's time to look into the Wardrobe of Wonder! Okay, friends, inside our Wardrobe of Wonder, I found 4 clues. And those 4 clues will help us remember 4 stories from the Big God story. And those 4 stories will help us remember 4 things about our great God. Are you ready to help me remember some of those stories? Let's see if we can remember the first clue. Think, 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 think. There it is. A big fire. Ooh. Do you remember what part of the Big God story had a hot, crackling fire in it? Good remembering. When King Nebuchadnezzar demanded that all the people bow down and worship a giant statue, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego wouldn't worship the idol. They only worshiped the one true God. When the king threw the young men in the fiery furnace, did they get burned up? No, God protected them. God protects us too, sometimes in ways we don't even know or see. What does this part of the Big God story help us remember about God? It helps me remember that God protects. Okay, are you ready to think about the second clue? Okay, this is a hard one. Ready? Think, 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 think. Oh, there it is. A lion. Do you remember which part of the Big God story had a lion? That's right, the story of Daniel. Daniel was thrown into the lion's den for praying to God and no one else. God showed Daniel that He was the living God by protecting Daniel from the people who wanted to hurt him and from the hungry lions. God is more powerful than anyone or anything. There is no one like our God. He is the one true living God. God is alive. Okay, it's time for our third clue. Think, 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 think. Ooh, running shoes. Oh yeah, that's right, the story of Jonah. Jonah tried to run from God, didn't he? God had a message for Jonah to take to the people of Nineveh, but Jonah ran the other way. In that story, God saved the sailors, Jonah, and the people of Nineveh. Do you remember how? That's right. God saved the sailors from the storm, and He saved Jonah from drowning by sending the big fish to swallow him up. And He saved the people of Nineveh from their sins when they turned from their behavior and began to live differently. What can the running shoes remind us about God? Instead of trying to run from God, if we turn to Him, God will always love us and save us. God saves. Okay, last clue. This one's from last week. Let's see if we can remember. Think, 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 think. Oh, a crown. I remember this one. This one's from the story of Esther. Haman had an evil plan to kill God's people, but but God worked through Esther and her cousin Mordecai to save his people from being destroyed. What does this part of the big God story tell us about God? Yes, God saves, and he will save us too if we call on him. Hey, boys and girls, there's something else in the wardrobe of wonder. It's our memory verse. Do you remember it? Here it is now. Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. Isaiah 41:10. Boys and girls, our God is faithful. He showed his faithfulness in all four of those stories when he protected, when he showed that he was the true living God, and when he saved. Boys and girls, that is something that is so worth celebrating. I hope you take some time today to celebrate God's faithfulness with your families. Thanks for remembering all those stories with me. I hope you have a wonderful week.